Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I have my 5 takeaway series to help you prepare for 2025. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. So my first takeaway, Ladd McConkey had a true rookie breakout. Now, this might sound obvious. Of course, McConkey had a breakout, but I just haven't talked about him on the channel much. Why not? Well, hard to recommend him as a buy. He's expensive, but he was good enough, and this is the point of this, that I'm not afraid of any incoming wide receiver in the NFL draft class affecting him. As in, it's not going to change my opinion of Ladd McConkey if they draft a wide receiver, even in the first. Why is that? Well, McConkey in 16 games had 82 catches, 1,149 yards, 7 touchdowns, 112 targets, 5.1 catches, and 71.8 yards a game. He was really good. And that was despite not having like a full role for the first few games. So he really didn't pick up until the second half where he got a lot better. But he had a 24.5% target share and 25% target rate as a rookie. That's over the whole season. And again, this is a strong indicator that he's going to be good moving forward because he also showed efficiency on the targets he had. 2.56 yards per route run. 7th among all wide receivers. It's a very strong number. That is a elite number. And this was as a rookie. So I love McConkey's future, right? So what do you do? Well, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to buy McConkey. If the Chargers draft a wide receiver in the first round and there's a little bit of a dip, people are saying, oh, there's a threat to McConkey, or, well, this other wide receiver is good, or whatever. That could be an opportunity. I do think this range of wide receiver, I often love drafting because we know I don't like running backs in that range in Dynasty. I could be into drafting McConkey. If I have shares, probably looking to hold for now. Could be looking to sell if someone's really desperate. But, you know, I'm always open to selling any player if someone's willing to make an overpay. But for now, I just wanted to address McConkey's success because I hadn't talked about it on the channel really at all. Now, another player I haven't talked about, Tyreek Hill. He completely fell off in 2024. I'm not sure I've even mentioned the name Tyreek Hill. I did a search in my old show sheets. I think the last time I talked about him was in January, where there was that trade drama. He was going to be traded, then he wasn't going to be traded. The reason he hasn't been mentioned is because the Dolphins haven't made a lot of moves in free agency or anything related to their receivers. So nothing from that angle. People aren't buying Tyreek Hill. I don't want to do that. And he's not really a sell because he's hard to sell. So it's kind of hard to talk about Tyreek Hill. But last year, it wasn't good. In 17 games, 81 catches, 959 yards, 6 touchdowns, 123 targets. So targets were not terrible. 4.8 catches and 56.4 yards a game. It was his worst season since his rookie year. He almost halved his 2023 production. Isn't that wild? Almost cut it in half. And then Hill struggled both with and without Tua. He broke 100 yards just 3 times throughout the entire season. Now, he averages 1.92 yards per route run, 38th among wide receivers. Now, that's not great. And that is a massive drop-off from what we usually see from Tyreek Hill, which is the best in the league or close to it. And then it was only 1.62 yards per team pass attempt, 44th among wide receivers. Now, that's actually even worse in a way. It's not just about running routes now. Now, even when there's a route run and, you know, a pass attempt is made, it still wasn't successful. So it's not good. Tyreek Hill was flat out not bad, but he wasn't good last year. Certainly not with these types of numbers. You're not going to be a fantasy relevant player. So again, for me, it's just avoid Hill. I'm not buying him. I can tell you that. I'm not drafting him. If you already have him, I mean, that's difficult to do because he was such a strong sell for me last offseason because he was 30. There was a time to move on. He was still at extremely high value. It's hard to have Tyreek Hill if you listen to my advice. But I guess you could try to sell him, but it's kind of a hard sell. You know, people are not buying. But overall, I would just avoid acquiring new shares of Tyreek Hill. So next up, Sam LaPorta, who had a bizarre 2024 season. And again, it's another player I feel like I haven't talked about much. And that's because I mean, in some ways, there's not that much to discuss. He was good, not great in 2024. It's very clearly the Dynasty tight end 3 for practically everyone, and is difficult to buy or sell. But let's break it down. So in 2024, LaPorta had 60 catches in 16 games, 726 yards, 7 touchdowns, 83 targets, 3.8 catches, and 45.4 yards a game. Way fewer catches and yards than 2023. Similar touchdown rate, similar catch rate, just wasn't targeted as much. But you can basically split his season up into 2 phases. Over the first 9 games, he averaged 2.8 catches, 3.6 targets, and 40.7 yards per game. He had a preseason injury, and then his snap shares were way down over that period of time, 77.1%. Then he missed a game due to another injury, different injury. But then it all changed. He came back from that injury, and then mysteriously, he was totally healthy. Over the final 7 games, he averaged 5 catches, 7.3 targets, and 51.4 yards a game. This is basically identical to his 2023 season, literally almost to the number. Some of this time came with David Montgomery injured, and also with the Lions defense falling apart, which led to more passing. Those might have been external factors. But there is one thing that's undeniable, which is that LaPorta played 90% of snaps or more in every single one of these 7 games, which he only did once over the first 9. I think he was injured over the beginning, and that slowed him down. And then in these 7 games, he was healthy, which improved his performance. Now, for me, I would consider selling Jameson Williams based on this data. Why? I'm not totally out on Williams, but if LaPorta's role was reduced because he was hurt, not because they phased him out of the offense, then Williams might lose target share to a healthy LaPorta in 2025. Remember, down the stretch, LaPorta was basically back to his 2023 self. In 2023, there was no doubt that LaPorta was more vital to the offense than Jameson Williams. The odds that the Lions can really support their running game, Amon-Ra, LaPorta, and Jameson Williams all at the same time for multiple years running is very slim. So if people are overconfident in Jameson Williams, he might become a sell for me. That's actually more what I'd be thinking based on this data than anything involving Sam LaPorta himself. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. Right now, I'm offering a 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT. And you know what? This has been extremely successful. It has been. I'm going to make that permanent. I'm going to make it permanent for eternity. And I'm only going to publish this code on the YouTube channel. But if you're here, you see this code, you can get 50% off your first month using the code TylerYT. Permanent. I'm going to make that a permanent feature of the content because it's been really successful. And I'm so confident in my product that I'm willing to offer it at half the price on your first month for you to get a chance that you like it. So hope that you all take advantage of that. I'll run through what I'm offering real quick. You can get my rankings, access to Discord, all my write-ups, direct message fantasy advice, and the ability to ask in advance questions for YouTube videos. I detail all about what that stuff is on the Patreon promo videos, which you can find on the channel's homepage. Tiers begin at just $5 a month, $250 with discount. And if you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my why you should join the Patreon videos on the channel. Like I said, they're on the homepage. Now, like I said, this discount, patreon.com/fantasy advice. You can click right there and type in the code TylerYT at checkout, and you will get that discount. With that said, I'll move into my next topic. So next up, again, another under the radar topic because we've talked about other topics on the same team. Jauan Jennings was really good in 2024. I feel like I've discussed every wide receiver on the 49ers except Jennings. I've talked about Brandon Ayuk's injury return a zillion times. Deebo Samuel going to be traded, then being traded a lot. Ricky Pearsall, the breakout down the stretch because people are interested in Ricky Pearsall. But all of that aside, Jennings was the most productive wide receiver on the team in 2024. He was. There's no doubt. In 15 games, he had 77 catches, 975 yards, 6 touchdowns, 113 targets, 5.1 catches, and 65 yards a game. Now, that includes the first 6 games where outside of that one explosion, he didn't play a full snap share in the other 5 games. And the final one where he had 10 targets before getting ejected. So if you look at the peripheral numbers, he looks a lot better, and he was productive on the real numbers, right? 26.3% target share, 15th among wide receivers. 28.4% target rate, 11th among wide receivers. Now, that target rate's important for Jennings because there were times they didn't play a complete snap share. But when he was out there, he was targeted on 28.4% of plays. That's very, very strong if you think about it, right? I mean, these are, borderline wide receiver one numbers. 2.45 yards per route run, 11th among wide receivers. Again, borderline wide receiver one number. Now, why have I not talked about Jennings? It's because there's no real market for Jennings, right? Turns 28 in the summer, so he's older than people think. The problem is selling Jennings is very difficult. He was very productive. Taking a late second for Jennings is not helpful, right? You'd rather just take the rest of Jennings' career over a late second. That's not going to help you. But nobody's paying more. So you can't really sell. As for the other three options, if you have him, holding is fine. No problem with that. I don't think there's a lot of risk. I think the 49ers might draft somebody, but I don't think they're going to draft a player who's going to take Jennings out of the starting lineup, for example. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't mind Jennings' price in startups. He seems to be kind of forgotten about. A lot of people are just not interested. So I'd certainly rather draft Jennings at his price than Ayuk at his. I can tell you that. And then as for buying, I'm okay with that. If he comes really cheap, I mean, there's no problem. I think he's a good player. I believe in the talent, just a little bit older. So I just wanted to address this and discuss Jennings because I literally had not done that on the channel for months. Now, the last player I want to talk about, Bo Nix. Bo Nix proved himself as a fantasy quarterback more than a real life quarterback. Before I go further, I guarantee this is going to come up in the comments. Guarantee that people are going to say, "Oh, you said that Bo Nix was bad." And, well, that's incorrect. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't say that. He's not bad. I didn't say he was bad. I'm just saying that we get in this trap with fantasy football. We see, someone scored a lot of fantasy points. They must be good. Okay. Bo Nix's fantasy production mostly came from a good touchdown rate and rushing yards, not high passing totals, not passing efficiency. We didn't see that from Bo Nix. Does that mean he can't do it? No, but we didn't see that. So 66.3% completion. That's good. 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Okay. 6.7 yards per attempt. That's bad. That's not good. That is not an indicator of success. 222.1 passing yards a game. Okay. And 92 carries, 430 yards, and 4 touchdowns. 25.3 rushing yards a game. That's solid. For fantasy, that's what got him there, was the 430 rushing yards to the 4 rushing touchdowns. That's what made the difference between him being, the mid to low end quarterback one that he was and not worth anything in the lower end where he could have been without those rushing yards. Now, of course, the rushing yards are there. For fantasy football, for redraft, I'm still pretty in on Nix. But for me, I have some concerns. I have found that people are valuing Nix. I have seen him go sometimes in the first round of a Superflex startup, early second round of a Superflex startup. I find that he's valued as if he is a guarantee to be a long-term franchise quarterback. No doubt, zero doubt, he's the guy. It's great that the Broncos won games. It's great that Nix scored fantasy points. Maybe he'll develop more and become better. But he's valued as if he's already that. And we didn't see that. We didn't see that as a prospect. He wasn't that in year one. So could he be good? Absolutely. Would I draft him in the late second, early third of a Superflex startup? Sure. He's not going there, though. So if you can get, and this does exist, Drake May plus for Bo Nix, I would do it. If you could get Caleb Williams plus for Bo Nix, I would do it. There are CJ Stroud, who had a down year too, but CJ Stroud's year one was a lot better for real life than Bo Nix's year one. So I'm just saying, I think he's a little overvalued. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's going to fail. I'm just saying that he's basically valued at the top end of his range of outcomes. And I can't be in at that price. So I'm going to have some Patreon questions and then we'll wrap up the show. So their point at keeping your depth is more important than winning a trade. I mean, yes, that's so situational though. Like, yes, there are some points in which this is the case. Most of the time it's not, but this is so situational. This is not a one size fits all answer. So I'm going to say most of the time, no, occasionally, yes. But yeah, that's really a very team dependent Patreon DM type question because it's going to depend on your roster more than anything else. How do you identify a player that's a roster clogger, and what are some strategies for moving a roster clogger off via trade? Well, good two-part question. Number one, a player who's a roster clogger is pretty simply the following. You can't start them, you can't drop them, but they don't really have trade value. Now, the problem is they don't really have trade value. So moving off a roster clogger via trade, well, they don't have trade value. So how do you do it? You have to try to create value. So for a roster clogger, you try often to combine them with a third for a second. That's usually the first thing I try. But sometimes you just can't trade them. And the way to move off of them via trade is in season when bye weeks hit, when people are desperate, they might be willing to pay for a player they wouldn't pay for otherwise. So sometimes that's how you have to do it. How do you determine when you should sell veteran running backs for picks when you're in a contending window? For example, Montgomery for future picks, but he's my RB3. I'm top 3 team in the league. Kind of similar to the previous depth question. For me, Montgomery's a bad example because there's no real risk. Montgomery's not going to have his value hurt by the NFL draft, most likely. But in general, I'm willing to sell veteran running backs now to remove the risk that they're damaged by the NFL draft, and at least 10 of them are going to be. I can tell you that. So that question is different now than in August. Now I'm very willing to sell veteran running backs no matter what my team looks like. So the answer is try to do it now. If you can't do it now, then it's all going to change after the NFL draft. Depends on what you can get. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to selling all running backs right now. There's very few running backs. It's Bijan, Gibbs. It's kind of about it. I'm willing to sell almost everyone else. Yeah. How do you know when going after a superstar like Jefferson, Chase, tier player, when you're going too far, giving up too much when their value is pretty limitless? Oh, I mean, this is a great question, but there's, again, not a one-size-fits-all answer. I have to see. I mean, I have to see what the trade is, right? I'm going to evaluate the trade. If I think it's too much, I'm not going to do it, right? I mean, there's no way for me to answer this in a one-size-fits-all way, right? I mean, in general, if you're giving up another really good player and a future first is probably too much. Like BTJ plus the first is probably too much for Jefferson, right? But that was a specific example. There's no general answer to this. You know what I'm saying? It has to be based on the specific example. For Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, and Emeka Egbuka, what would your favorite team landing spot be for each player? Well, Ted McMillan is going to go pretty early, so you want him to go to somewhere where he can be the one. It's looking unlikely, but the spot would be the Panthers. He'd be the clear wide receiver 1 there. That's pretty clear. Emeka Egbuka, I kind of like the Texans. I do. CJ Stroud doesn't run, and they needed a wide receiver 2 to complement Collins. That's what Egbuka is. He's not a wide receiver 1. Burden needs to be someone who's going to use him. Texans also might be good for him, but maybe the Broncos, if they're excited about him. If they draft him in the first, I would be excited. But, we know they like to use players in that type of role. So overall, though, I care more about draft capital than landing spot for any player. Now, if you like the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, is available on Patreon, patreon.com/fantasy advice, Dynasty and rookie content year round. 50% discount at all tiers using code TylerYT. You can sign up patreon.com/fantasy advice up there. Every sign up helps support my independent fantasy football content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.